Hello, everyone. We're back for yet another CSM20 interview, and today I have a candidate who has never thrown his name in the hat before. He decided to do it as a meme, and surprise, surprise, it actually turned into something serious. I will let him disclose who he is here in a moment. Please remember that I am doing these interviews because my community is going to figure out who is going to go on the ballots. I am not going to choose who's going to go on the Eve Rookies or the Warm Life ballots. It's going to be my community team. So the intention of these interviews is so you can go through and you can decide, who fits your ethos and who fits your needs, and you can make great decisions when you vote. So let's go ahead and get into it. Fluffy, go ahead and go ahead and introduce yourself.
So, hello everyone. My name's going to be Fluffy Neko today, and thank you, Kshal, for the invite to this interview. As I already said, my name is Fluffy Neko, and I've been playing Eve for just almost 2 years. It's like 1 year, 10 months. I have been an avid wormholer, and now lately I have been an FC for the Eve Rookies group, and I actually just joined the CSM to get some words out, hopefully get some people thinking, and to get something nice going in the communities of Eve.
Awesome. So, of course, every CSM has, something that they want to accomplish on the CSM. Can you tell us about 3 points for your campaign?
So obviously, free beer, infinite lives, and unlimited money. But sadly, we already have free beer. We already have infinite lives because we are literally we cannot be killed, and we already have infinite money. It's called going out and playing with others. So I kind of have to choose something else. So I would love to be the person that takes all the tiny annoyances in the game, which we're gonna touch on later, and turn them into non-existent annoyances. Basically, get CCP to fix the tiny things. I would also like to listen to the small voice of the community because this is kind of opinionated, but I do think that the nullsec groups have a very large saying, and the game is not just about nullsec, the game is also about highsec and lowsec as well, and they don't really get their voices heard because nullsec is just so much bigger, but we do need to actually work on the whole game. Also, I would like to see content updates, and I would like to push content updates for things that haven't really been touched on in a while. For example, missioning has not really been updated since about World War II or something, and that could also be an interesting content for especially new people just jumping into the game, and it could actually be turned into pretty good group content, in my honest opinion.
Excellent. Sounds like you have a pretty thought out platform there. So, we're going to go ahead and get into some questions that just happen to align with some of your platform. The first one is, what do you think the biggest barrier to new players undocking is?
So this is a sandbox game at its core. So CCP does try to provide a general framework of what you guys can do, but still the biggest thing is going to be what the community can provide for you. And honestly, when I started the game and I was reading tutorials, watching videos, there is a very, very big distrust for public fleets because of all the scams that's going on, all the bad people that are flying, all the gankers trying to get to you, all the scammers trying to steal your money. So I think the biggest issue is either finding people that you can trust and getting to undock with them. Basically, the fleet finder panel is kind of useless. I think it should probably thrown out and just be redesigned into something much nicer. And also, there's, I believe, a distrust in public fleets that are going on. Obviously, you can get into X and Y, but it is very hard to find credible people in the F community, and I do think there could be something done about this eventually.
Yeah, I totally agree that the Fleet Finder is a hot pile of garbage. I can remember when they first revamped it, I was in a very public disagreement with CCP Ice Cream over it. I believe I called it crap, and we kind of got into it. um,
Yeah, well, I mean, CCP overly relies, in my opinion, on external tools and people, what people make. So for example, Discord is a big platform for most communities, and I do believe CCP could break the barrier if they introduce something in game,
yeah.
like the corporation projects are one thing, but we kind of saw how that turned out. But I still think there's a lot of work that could be done in this area of the game.
I agree, 100%. So, what role do you think fleets play in player retention?
So, as I was saying in my previous answer, basically, as it's a sandbox game, the core gameplay loop is going to be consisting of you finding friends and flying with them in fleets. So, basically, in my own words, fleets are everything. If you don't have fleets, you don't have people. Solo content doesn't really exist, and in like partially to this, obviously, you can't have alts. But it is not as much fun to fly like 10 times yourself than if you were flying with 10 of your friends who you can connect with, play together, even either like go out, have a LAN party, order a pizza, and just blow some stuff up in a wormhole or something. So realistically, CCP should do all that they can towards getting people into fleets, getting people to undock as a result, and just getting people enjoy the game in this way.
So, you touched on it a little bit in your first answer about the Fleet Finder. What other tools or features do you think that CCP could add to the game to improve communities being able to provide content?
So CCP already has its community team that answer the questions on the help channels. I guess they could probably find some more respectable FCs to run public fleets that people can like that would be advertised towards the community, and then CCP would state that hey, this FC is legit. He knows what he's doing. He's gonna get you a handout. He's gonna get you down into PvP. He's gonna get you down into get you some mining fleets going, get you some wormhole stuff going, or like just show you around nullsec or something. That's something big, obviously. But I do think that could be useful for new players because right now you start the game, there's a short tutorial, and then you're thrown into the basic emptiness of a space station. Uh, Obviously, you can find a corporation. There are a lot of good corporations that you can start out in, but from CCP's part, I think this is just lackluster.
So, that's interesting that you bring up, CCP having FCs do this. How would they deal with favoritism?
So we are all humans, so we obviously gonna have our favorite FCs, like the Vayday FC. Some FCs don't do that good of a job. Some FC don't really have good comms, etc., etc. I do think people should have a chance in saying of who should be running these fleets, who they can be flying with. So I think favoritism in itself is not an issue. A bigger issue would be if there's going to be obviously a bias towards some of the FCs, and against these CCP could obviously rotate those that are not that good. So basically, what I'm saying is there should be a vote on who should be hosting these like completely new fleets, because that would be what gets you the most amount of new players undocking
Okay,
or
that's
like coming
actually,
back, more to say.
yeah, that's interesting. Definitely, if CCP is listening, an idea. Um, do you think that toxicity keeps players from undocking?
So you could say that yes, in certain contexts that would be completely one of the reasons. For example, if you initially get into a operation where they just use you as drones to mine or something like that, or just completely go off and like flaming on chats and saying certain words, certain words at you, you will most certainly have a bad feeling, a bad taste in your mouth, and nobody likes to be that person that always gets the bad words. So in those regards, you're just gonna leave. But once again, this is a sandbox game, and it is a very so it is a very hard to draw line at what point does become a good banter turn into a toxic relationship. So I think it would be very hard to tell when things has to stop and when not. But obviously, once one of the parties feel that it is not okay, CCP could have a chance to intervene. But Right now, there is just a report button, might happen, might not happen, or you can block them. But again, nothing is stopping people from constantly killing you, for example, which is, I think, it could be constituted as a toxic behavior. But it's a sandbox game, and CCP lets things happen because it's a sandbox game, as they say. But there could also be certain things going on if they become a bigger issue.
Okay. And then on the flip side, what kind of content do you think keeps getting players to log in time after time?
So what I usually see, like in the numbers, whenever CCP does one of the cool events where you actually get to do stuff, a lot of people show up, do those events, especially during the first few times. So I do believe CCP could do some more events, in-game events, not just the daily rewards, because obviously a lot of people are gonna log in, claim the dailies, but like meaningful fleet-sized content is what I mean. So I remember when CCP did the Drifter Crisis, they did the wormholes sites, and Eve Rookies ran some of those, and a lot of other communities ran a lot of those. I could actually see like a ton of people coming out running the content. I do think that content should either be like staying, or that content should just come back in a rotation, because that would give some more fun into the game. So a lot of people, once you find what you enjoy, you're just gonna do that. There's a ton of people doing industry, ton of people doing obviously mining, holing, etc., etc., which is something. I mean, obviously CCP has the data on what they should be working towards. We sometimes see glances of this. Like there was a changes to mining. There are changes to obviously constructing ships, the coastal ships, which is I think a step in the good direction. But balancing such a huge game is nearly
Yeah.
impossible. I think.
So, with the Drifter Crisis, do you see any of the players that had come out for all those fleets that you actually went on? And I think you FC'd a few, didn't you?
I didn't actually do a drifter. Wait, I did the some of the hacking sites,
Yeah.
and I do see a lot of those people at least because they are still flying. Though they were also incursion players, and I do think it was most of the regulars that were flying with
Right.
us because I do see a lot of them in general. But it kind of should be looked into if it was that interesting. But again, CCP probably has the data,
Yeah.
and we single-handedly cannot really change the balance. It has to go through CCP. So
So I know that you run homefront fleets from time to time, as well as FC the incursion fleets. Do you see people like cross over from one fleet type to another to come out with you?
yes, that is a big part of the game that you obviously want to try out as many things as you want. Um, when I was running the Homefronts fleets, I saw a lot of those people, and then you also played incursions. Some of them also do mining fleets with us. Some of them go out and PvP adventures, and I even see this in my own corporation that I'm part of. That they go out on fleets with a lot of communities, though they are mostly flying PvP. But even in PvP, there are a ton of flavors. And this is, as I was saying before, basically fleet content is what keeps the game alive, in my opinion.
So, solo players, these are the people that come in and you're not going to be able to drag them into a fleet for the life of you. How do you think that either CCP or the community at large can bridge from solo to group activities?
So first of all, there needs to be a will for the player to join these fleets. And as we touched on the general distrust for fleets, it can be hard for some people. I also remember myself when I first came into the incursion fleets. I didn't really know how it was gonna go. I didn't really know if I was actually gonna enjoy it. I mean, it did turn out pretty good, I would say. But for me, that was the case in a lot of times that people just don't know what to expect. And if they don't know what to expect, they won't really know what to do. And as I was saying before, if CCP had either like branded fleets, like CCP fleets, take out people, do X and Y, get them to know the content more, they would I sure hope they would come up more times. As it is the case with our incursion fleets, I usually see a lot of people come into our armor fleet, the Vanguard fleets, and a lot of them later converted their experiences into HQ fleets, either with us or with other communities. But the first step is always the hardest, and that is what that should be worked on in one way or another.
So, do you think that maybe CCP should consider putting more solo content into the game? Because right now we just have really exploration and abyssals.
Yes, I do think some more content would be nice. For example, a long time ago, there were the Abyssal Proving Grounds, the 1v1 Abyssal PvP filaments, for example. I didn't actually get to play that content, but I did see some videos of it online. I think that was a pretty good idea, and I do think there could be a lot more content that is actually viable for the solo player. But with any kind of content like that that they introduce, there is the good old saying of, "If it can be boxed, it will be boxed," which is a very hard to balance around.
Yeah.
If you look at homefronts, they did go one step in the good direction by making that you cannot really take the gate after a fleet is inside, but that's just one step in a bigger solution. There's still bugs. Some of the sites you still cannot find. And well, yeah, sorry, that's a bit deviating from the question because obviously this is not a solo content, but I guess if you can box 5, it can be solo content.
Yeah. So we're gonna switch from players and docking to more like community culture, and there's a big one on the list that we talked about a little bit before. So you know what happened down in Providence earlier this summer, right?
You mean the campaign?
The
Yes,
campaign, yes.
I have heard about it. I have seen some videos as well on YouTube. Um, it was a whole thing actually.
So, what were your feelings on this campaign against Absolute Order, which was characterized as a very toxic community within EVE Online?
So, this is a very political question at its core, and it is actually very important to talk about this as well, get the view of people on these issues, because obviously, if you are going to moderate your own communities or like your own systems, there are going to be some people who are going to deviate from, well, what I guess is the norms are. Like the norms normally would be. Now, I'm not going to accuse anybody in Absolute Order or anybody in other nullsec alliances that their conduct is not up to what I think is acceptable. But realistically, whatever gets people to undock is, I think, a good content, whether it is to evict Absolute Order from certain places, whether or not it is a war between two big nullsec blue donut states or something. I do believe that is a good thing. And basically, as far as I've seen, Absolute Order is a rather toxic community at its core, or at least the leadership is slash was. So in a way, the community undocking against this and the community showing that they don't actually accept any kind of shitty behavior is a good thing to me. It's a good thing in my eyes because obviously, as long as the community says like doesn't do anything against it, the community is silently agreeing to whatever they're doing. So I do think that the campaign was probably a good thing that happened. Maybe Absolute Order doesn't think like it, but seriously, if the whole core community gets together against you, you should really try to look into yourself on what you did wrong, and you should try to improve on that.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. So now we're going to get to my favorite part of this interview. There's a lot of what ifs here. We're going to pretend that you have gotten elected to the CSM. So the first question is, if you make it onto the CSM, what other candidates or candidate types do you think that you want to work with?
Okay, so I actually looked through all the currently existing and the previous posting of other CSM candidates of what they did, what they wanted to do, etc., etc. And Well, the core things that I was looking for is obviously the type of content that I am extremely familiar with. That would be, in this case, PvP content, so PvE content. I do slightly do PvP, but that's not really something that I personally my favorite. And I do live in a wormhole, and I also do a lot of high sec content, namely, for example, incursions and homefronts. So what I think, just to name a few, obviously, I am part of the rookies community, which had one CSM, and now she's still a candidate. So obviously, I would probably love to work with Kshal. I kind of have in the past as well, because she's the rookies community. She's the leader of it, so obviously, I had a lot of contact with her. So I do think she's a very pleasant person to work with. In general, and I'm not just saying that because she's interviewing me. Trust me, guys, she really is nice and she can get stuff done. Another thing that that I looked at, probably Ariel Rin. He's basically the curator of the surveillance state and one of the users of CCP's Magic Faucet, which should be the ESI or the VPI. Basically, he's the current developer of one of the out solutions, which people are probably more familiar with. Basically, the stuff that pulls through your data and makes Bluesec want to watch you. But that's not really my use case. My use case is I am working, or like a lot of people are, relying on third-party tools. And since CCP doesn't do a lot of tools themselves, I do think we need somebody in the CSM that also has a good understanding of how to create third-party tools and how to make third-party tools better. And as a third one, I obviously have to say the name of that one dude that is a wormholer, Mick Fight Master. He's kind of a big person in the wormhole blue donut industry, and even though I don't agree on some of what his corp does in general, he's still a wormhole candidate, and I think he was kind of the only one who realistically could get into last time. So I would love to work with him on actually getting something to the wormholes, because wormholes haven't really been updated in a while, actually.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that the CSM has to do is bring problems or wants or needs to CCP. But you also kind of have to discuss it with the God, it's late. CSM. What is your approach? What do you think your approach will be to show player support to your fellow CSM as well as CCP?
Yeah, I kind of didn't understand your question. Sorry.
So you have to bring issues to CCP, like the players.
Yeah.
Let's take the issue of low class wormholes having the exact same sites that you do day in and day out. There is no change. It's boring. So the low class wormhole community says, we want this changed. How do you think that you would take that to CCP and show that the players, there's enough support for this issue to CCP to do something about it?
Well, obviously, the first step in finding any issues is to go out and talk with people. So, first of all, I would want to talk with multiple low class owners, so like multiple bigger corporations that work like live in those situations, and get their voices in, get what they wanted to change, and then if we have something nice that could be brought up to CCP, and then it wouldn't just be like, hey CCP, please change wormholes, and then CCP is obviously going to throw it back with, okay, what do you want it changed? Do you want the sun to glow green now or something? And then that's that's not really something you can bring. Like, okay, like I don't like wormholes. Like, okay, we cannot delete wormholes the same way. Like, we cannot delete nullsec just because they blobbed you. There needs to be some work done before issues can be brought up. I believe, and that is probably the hardest part of what like a CSM actually has to do, is to make issues worthwhile to actually work on. Because again, if it's just something like I don't like wormholes and that's all that's submitted, CCP is probably going to throw that in the trash. because obviously you cannot work with that, sadly. You need some concrete points on what people would love changed, and that's what I would have to first find.
Yep, I think
And that,
that's definitely one of the things that a lot of CSM candidates don't understand, in my opinion, is that yeah, you have to find evidence, reason, and CCP loves numbers. So
I mean, obviously there aren't an infinite amount of low-class wormhole owners, but yeah, your example of having the same site is true for all of the classes. So that issue could actually be expanded on and not just be like C1 and C2 owners say that, but it actually could be expanded that basically every wormhole owner or like wormhole living person says that, hey, it's just the same 5 sites, and there's only like 2 of them that are remotely worth doing.
yep.
That could be changed.
So now another job of the CSM is interacting with players. This is probably something that every CSM who makes it onto the council spends an hour or two a day fielding. Is players that have problems that their tickets haven't been looked at for like 2 weeks, all all sorts of things. It is, as Dujek said in the last interview, it is really surprising what players bring to you. What do you think you're going to do if a player approaches you with an issue that you absolutely do not agree with?
So I've actually thought about this question for quite a while because it goes quite far. So basically, what I would do in this situation, it completely depends on whether or not it is a legit thing to talk about. So you could have your own opinion on anything, but if your opinion is something like, I don't know, I don't like the Drake because it's a Drake, uh, and a cabinet issue like that, that I don't think is completely valid to do. I cannot really work with that. Or in that case, it might be better off with someone else. Like if somebody comes says that the polarized Drake is too OP for PvP in this very specific situation, PvP is not my main thing. I would probably tell them like politely that you probably want to take this issue up with somebody who's a PvP main, because I could try to help them, but I think somebody who mains their specific issue, like their specific part of the game that they have an issue with, is gonna be a much better outcome for them. But I guess that's also probably hard to do. So
So,
it's
so then, what do you think that you specifically can do that another CSM candidate can't do?
So what I like to think is I don't align with any of the nullsec states. I don't align myself with any of the lowsec states. I don't align myself with basically anyone in this regard. I do the content in the game because I like doing the content. If the content I like is in lowsec, I will go to lowsec. I don't care. Then I will go to lowsec. I will look at lowsec. I'll see how can I go to lowsec. What can I do in lowsec? And then I will do other lowsec content as well. So I have a lot of general understanding of on a lot of the game's content. So most of the candidates, at least they say that, hey, pick me as the wormhole candidate. Pick me. I'm a LoSec candidate. Pick me. I do industry as a living. But that's fine. That's very good. And you're a good candidate because you can say you can have all the industry people. But there are some people who have issues with multitude of things all at once, like this goes into that, and that's an issue. And if you don't know like this, and that, you're gonna have to ask others, and then you're gonna go far. But I have an understanding of a lot of general systems, and I think I can help you a tiny bit better because I don't specialize into anything like that. And if it comes to something I personally don't know, then I will go and ask somebody who does. And then we're going to work with you together to find a resolution to your specific issue, or like parts of your specific issues. So you're not just getting help of somebody who specializes in wormholes, but in the end, you're going to get somebody who specializes in wormholes, wormhole PV, and then wormhole PvP through someone else. And it's gonna be a better solution than just asking somebody who does PvE and then you
Yeah.
ask the PvP question.
I'm just for full disclosure, I did not pay him to say this, but I do want to say that this is something that I think players in general fail to understand, as well as the other CSM candidates. The CSM, every single person on the CSM is not meant to know everything. There are 12 people that sit on that CSM for a reason. So when you guys are out there and you're getting ready to vote, just because someone isn't well versed in, say, nullsec, doesn't make them a bad candidate. Just because someone doesn't always do micro gang PvP does not make them a bad candidate. Because chances are there's someone that's going to be sitting on that council that knows more, and CSM confer and talk about it and put the issues towards CCP together a lot. So yeah, I totally agree with your answer there, and it is I think a shortfalling of a lot of players thinking that we need to know it all.
There's no one-stop solution to anything in life as well. So if you work spot, that's gonna be good for that one spot only.
Yep.
You need a general understanding of the systems in order to make things work.
Yep, and there was several times when I was on the CSM where we would just be brainstorming and I'd say something about new player experience, and somebody who hasn't even played the tutorial since it came out 3 years ago was like, well, did you consider this? And it would be like, oh, well, crap, no, I didn't. And it's just, you have 12 perspectives, and that is very, very strong versus everyone having to know everything. Now, here's another question. Imagine you get on the CSM. Now, you've stated that, your area of knowledge is wormholes and incursions and other PvE homefronts. What do you think that you're going to do if you find out that the next year is going to be completely dedicated to Pochven, for example? Not one thing that you really work on or play is going to come up at all. What do you think you're going to do?
So the first thing is obviously to understand what the systems that they want and like how they want their system. Just because they're going to work on something that's not my forte, that doesn't mean it's a bad expansion. So I don't think the CSM has any way, shape, or form can make CCP completely do a 180 and do something else. So that's not a good answer to this question. But I think the first step is to understand what they want. And once I personally understood what they wanted, we could, like with the others who are also outside CCP's current goals, we could go sit together and then talk about ways that our content could also be included. For example, in case of Pochven, that ties into wormholes in some way, shape, or form, because obviously you can use wormholes to get in and out, and they go to a lot of systems. In that way, we could get them to actually do I guess different connections, for example, different stuff spawning on the wormholes, or get some new sites into the places where the wormholes spawn. For example, there used to be a lot of hunting fleets, like just go and hunt Triglavians that spawn on a wormhole. Instead, it could be that if the wormhole spawns, it brings some corruption, for example, etc., etc. And we could just talk about this all day and all night. Again, just because they pick one thing, it doesn't mean that other kind of content cannot be included. And even if their main goal is going to be to do something completely different, there are still the small things that can be fixed, that could be fixed, that should actually be fixed as well. And if it's not a big expansion, that doesn't matter, but people still are going to have issues with other parts of the game that needs to be fixed. And as a CSM member, you also have to work with existing stuff, not just new stuff.
So, what's one quality of life update or feature or fix you would propose to CCP?
Oh boy, I actually wrote a list of things, and I had to think very hard about what I think would be helping most people, I think that would be like to make station containers finally useful. One big issue is you cannot. If you haven't used station containers, by the way, you cannot construct stuff out of the container, and you cannot fit chips from a container realistically. So that should be fixed. I'm not sure that would be a big issue because I hope it wouldn't be a big fix. But I think that would help a lot of, especially industry players, or players that fit a lot of ships. They could just store stuff separately, use it like that, etc., etc. Reduce the cluttering of your inventories. Also, with the station containers, they could finally do some better logging. Because right now, if a corporation has a shared container, there's just no logs. You just take everything. Nobody knows about that. That's also silly design from a design perspective.
You know what? Oz is going to be really upset you're taking his quality of life.
Now, again, I've wrote down a lot of things. Like, I thought about this for a while, but I think this is the single thing that hurt me the most during my game time.
Okay, CCP, if you're listening, there is 2 CSM candidates who have brought this up now. It's important.
Please fix it.
Now the last question. So you know what projection is, right?
Yes, the Dusak moving ships quickly into places and killing you.
It's not just nullsec. It's just a person's ability or a group's ability to.
Oh yeah. I just gave a very vague example that probably most people would understand just from hearing it.
So this has been a very decisive issue for many CSMs now. How do you plan on making sure that CCP continues the work that they have already done on the projection problem? Or do you think with the changes that happened earlier this year, I think it was with the summer expansion, is enough?
So, basically, first thought is not even Bob the Builder could face this. Not even with all of his talking tools, they could make this completely balanced. Now, that we know the issue, that it cannot be fully faced, there are, I believe, things that could be changed. For example, the filament changes. I think you mean the filament changes.
Yep.
So, that's one.
The filaments were one change that they did.
Yeah, but probably the filaments are what's hurting most people, I think. So, basically, before the filament changes, you just went into a nullsec system, and you could immediately run away in case you got attacked. But that's a simplified example. After the filament changes, you now have to sit around the filament for ages and be blobbed. That's one thing. I mean, obviously, you can look at balance from both sides. So let's actually tackle a different one. So if you guys ever been to a Bomber's Bar fleet, basically just a ton of small ships, and then that kills capitals, because there's a lot of damage on the field. What Nullsec does is they just get one small ship on you, they just light the Sino, and then like 50 or so Redeemers come and they just smart bomb your ass. That's one way of projecting your fleet, Sinos. So if you go onto Sinos, for example, you can balance it in 2 ways. Basically, if you balance it in the terms of the attackers, it is kind of already balanced because they just send a 200,000 skill point herald on the field, and then they can bring a 100,000 capital fleet. That's, I think, probably what a attacker would want. For the defender's perspective, that's what the defenders would want, to bring 200 capitals or more. What the attacker would want is obviously, once they get their fleet in, they do not want the defender side to bring in any ships. So from their perspective, for example, if CCP were to implement a spool-up timer on a Sino, yes, just bear with me, that would mean that they can kill the Sino ship real fast, which would mean that the attacker side would have to bring a bigger Sino ship, which is harder to kill, and that should be harder. So it would force the attacker side to choose a different tactic. Also, for example, if they made the Sinos mass limited, that could also force the attacker side to pick a different tactic, and that would make the defender side be better. So there really isn't a one sure way of doing it. You can do small changes incrementally and hope it fixes it. But in the end, as long as there are players playing the game, they will find a way to just not be bound by your limitations. But it is seriously sometimes an issue. Feels bad when you get robbed and immediately killed. But like CCP can do small changes to this, but there really isn't, I think, one big thing that could just fix projection because it wouldn't be fair for the other side.
Okay, excellent answer. So then it's almost over. So, what is your final statement? Why should players vote for you? And why should Everkeys and Warm Life put you on our ballots?
So I think the biggest thing that I would want people to think that goes for me is the fact that I wouldn't be afraid to talk with others as well and to get them onto your issues as well. Get a bigger opinion, get some more stuff together, and don't just go to CCP with tiny issues, but go to CCP with bigger systematic issues in general, so that they can fix the core thing that's plaguing your gameplay. So if you have issues with your chat that you cannot post emojis, you cannot post hieroglyphs, that's a big issue. But it is only hurting a small amount of people. So, but you could still come to me, and I would still go to CCP. I would absolutely tell them, guys, come on, please. I need hieroglyphs. I need to talk with my ancient Egyptian friends. Do it, please. And I don't care what CCP would say to me. I would still bring it to them just because that's the issue the players are having. I don't care what issue you have. If it's a valid issue, I will bring it to CCP. I will tell them, fix this, please.
Excellent. So, if people want to talk to you about your campaign, where can they find you?
So you guys can absolutely reach out to me on Discord. I'm very much active on the Rookies Discord, for example. Wonderful to you guys. You guys should also join this if you want to join a lot of free fleets. This is especially safe for newer people. And I do love new people as well. If you guys come to like an incursion fleet or like find me in general, I am very happy to find you. Also, you guys can just send me an email or I also have the forum thread with my CSM campaign. Do leave a message in there and I will reply to you when I see it.
Excellent. I will make sure to get all that information into the description when this YouTube video goes up, as well as post it into your thread.
Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you for having me, actually, Kshal. It was a nice time.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this. I know that your first time is a little daunting. And don't worry, guys, we're going to go and see if we can get him on a few more interviews so he can have some more practice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. And thank you guys for listening to all of my ramblings. And I hope you had a great time and see you out in the space of New Eden.